If you have ever paused to ask where your consciousness truly comes from, what the real source of your soul is, and whether your journey begins only with the birth of the body, then this moment is for you. The profound secret of Vedanta and the Upanishads reveals that the soul is not born just once, but passes through three deep births, which reveal our true nature and open the path to self realization. If you are ready to embark on this divine journey of the Upanishads, press the like button now so that we can move forward together on this inner journey of Brahma Vidya and Vedic knowledge. Imagine if you were to get an ancient map in your hands that clearly shows the journey of your consciousness from the pure, unmanifest self to the vibrant and sensitive personality of today. This very map is the Aitareya Upanishad. It is not just philosophy, but a living experiential journey where the cosmic play happening within you begins to reveal itself, where the philosophy of the Upanishads, Advaita Vedanta, Indian philosophy, and spiritual awakening all become one experience together. Now forget everything you have heard about the journey of the soul for a moment. If the ancient Upanishads proclaim that your birth is not only of the body, but also of consciousness, intellect, and ultimately liberation, then this is not an ordinary idea, but a new gateway to viewing life. This guidance not only explains the soul and consciousness, but also leads you into the divine blueprint of the Aitareya Upanishad, which provides clear direction to your self realization, knowledge of Brahman, and the profound truths of Sanatan Dharma. And have you ever asked yourself where the true origin of your consciousness lies? Beyond the body, your soul is on a cosmic journey that reflects the origin and rhythm of creation itself. Today, we are going to open the mysterious doors of the Aitareya Upanishad, where the three transformations, three births of the soul are revealed, and the Upanishads, Vedanta, and spiritual practice together begin to call you towards your own true form. What if I told you that the story of creation, which you associate with the sky, planets, stars, and the universe, is actually the story of your own soul? And if your consciousness originated from the same pure source from which the entire universe emerged, would you be ready to know that truth? Vedanta and the Upanishads reveal that the journey of the soul does not begin merely with the body. It rises from the pure ocean of consciousness and reaches the waves of the body, mind, and experience. The Aitareya Upanishad unveils the secret of the deep connection between this cosmic consciousness and the individual soul. Imagine holding an ancient map in your hand that clearly shows the journey of your consciousness from the unmanifested self to the present personality. This is the map of the Aitareya Upanishad. It is not just a philosophical text, but a living chart of Vedanta that reveals the relationship between the self, the world, and the ultimate truth. Even today, when humans struggle with questions like who am I, what is my purpose, and where is the true source of consciousness, this Upanishad remains as relevant as it was thousands of years ago. The Aitareya Upanishad leads us to that state which Vedanta calls the Adi Atman, primordial self. It is the same original, undivided self that existed as the sole reality before creation, neither duality, nor difference, nor division, only pure consciousness, eternal, formless, complete. From that consciousness, the entire universe manifested. In the language of Vedanta, this is Brahman, this is the supreme soul, this is the cosmic consciousness. To explain this, the Upanishads give the analogy of the ocean. Imagine the ocean is one, but when waves rise on it, they appear in many forms. The waves can be small or large, high or low, but their water is not different from the ocean. Similarly, the primordial self is the pure ocean, and we, our body, mind, intellect, personality, are its waves. This is the experience of Advaita Vedanta, where the knowledge of the soul and the realization of Brahman become one. Here, the profound secret of the Aitareya Upanishad is revealed, that the individual is not separate from the universe. Your soul and this entire cosmos are born of the same consciousness. The sense of I am within you is the same consciousness that arranges the stars in the sky, ignites the light in the sun, and governs the movement of creation. Vedanta says the soul is Brahman and Brahman is the soul. Duality is only an illusion of perception. In reality, all is one. This is the fundamental principle of Advaita Vedanta, the essence of the Upanishads, and the heart of Indian philosophy and Sanatana Dharma. But a question arises: when all is one consciousness, how did creation manifest? How did the waves arise? The Aitareya Upanishad answers: Kama, or desire. Here, kama does not mean worldly craving, but the fundamental impulse that arose in the self, the desire to know itself. Pure consciousness wished to recognize itself, to experience itself. Creation began from this inner vibration. This desire is not a fault, but the fundamental power of existence. Just as a seed naturally tends to become a tree, similarly, within the self lies the hidden impulse for self manifestation. The Upanishad says that it was from this spark of desire that the soul took on names and forms. The senses were created, the mind and intellect manifested, the flow of life began, and consciousness expressed itself in the gross world. From here begins the journey of the soul, from pure Brahman consciousness to the expressed individual soul. This journey is not a fall, but an expansion of experience. The soul descends into the world, recognizes its many forms, experiences them, and ultimately awakens the desire to return to that pure source. Thus, the first truth of the Aitareya Upanishad teaches us that we are not ordinary beings, but moving and living expressions of cosmic consciousness. The quest within you, the questions, the yearning for self knowledge, that is the memory of the primordial self, calling you towards your pure form. This is the first gateway to self realization. The realization that I am not merely the body, not the mind, not even the thoughts. I am the very consciousness from which this entire creation has arisen. Let us now continue this journey and enter the profound truth of the Aitareya Upanishad, where three births of consciousness are revealed, a process that marks the entire journey of the soul from the universe to the individual. Vedanta says that the soul does not pass through just one stage, but three phases: gross birth, subtle awakening, and the journey of self exploration. And these three births acquaint a person with their true identity. The very first birth is the gross or physical incarnation. According to the Aitareya Upanishad, when the pure self expresses its consciousness, that consciousness gradually takes on name and form, and eventually the gross body appears. The soul does not take birth directly into the body, rather, it first enters through the life force, prana, then the senses, and the mind before entering the body. This sequence also occurred in the creation of the universe. First, the vibration of consciousness, then the element of life force, followed by the power of the senses, and finally, the gross form. In this way, the birth of a human becomes a small reflection of the cosmic creation itself. Your body is not merely a structure of flesh and bones, but a temple of that infinite consciousness in which the soul has entered and given you life. The movement of life in your breath, the vision of your eyes, the hearing power of your ears, all these are the same divine powers of the soul expressing themselves through the body. The Aitareya Upanishad teaches us that physical birth is not a coincidence, but a divine creative process in which the consciousness of the universe itself manifests as a human being. The second birth of the soul is even more subtle and profound: spiritual awakening. It is not the birth of the body, but the birth of the inner self. When a person is entangled only in pleasure and livelihood, they are living in the first birth. But the moment a question arises within, who am I? What is the purpose of my life? What is the truth beyond the body? At that very moment, the beginning of the second birth takes place. In this state, consciousness expands. A person begins to look inward as well as outward. Discrimination awakens, self reflection intensifies, and the search for truth begins. The Aitareya Upanishad says that this is the stage where the soul starts recognizing its own reflection. It is able to see the mind, intellect, and ego separately and begins to realize I am not these thoughts, not these emotions, but the witnessing consciousness that knows all these. This second birth makes a person a seeker and leads them toward Vedanta, the philosophy of the Upanishads, and self knowledge. These two births, physical incarnation and spiritual awakening, together shape the third and most important journey, the journey of self exploration. Here, a person begins to see their existence as a subtle reflection of cosmic evolution. Just as the universe progressed from ignorance to consciousness, from darkness to light, similarly, within each individual, the same movement occurs from unconsciousness to awakening, from illusion to truth. In this realization, it becomes clear that a person's life is not a separate story but a chapter of the same great cosmic play. Your quest, your struggles, your pain, and your spiritual practice all are diverse experiences of that one consciousness. This understanding gives the seeker the feeling that the ultimate goal is not somewhere outside, it is located within oneself. Thus, these three births of consciousness are not merely philosophical concepts, but true processes that occur every moment in your life. Physical birth gave you a body, spiritual awakening made you a questioner, and the journey of self exploration is leading you toward that supreme truth, where the soul rests in its own Brahman form. This is the profound message of the Aitareya Upanishad. You are an evolving consciousness, a living practice, and your entire life journey is the union from the soul to Brahman. If the teachings of the Aitareya Upanishad have been transforming your perspective from within until now, don't miss the next episode. Subscribe now and write a line in the comments. Consciousness is Brahman, so that this spiritual journey can become even more powerful. Now we enter the very subtle truth of the Aitareya Upanishad, which Vedanta calls the mystery of the microcosm. The Upanishad clearly states that the individual soul, that is the Jivatma, is actually a small reflection of the universal soul, the Paramatma. Whatever happens in the infinite universe has a subtle echo within the human being as well. This is what Vedanta says. Yet Brahmande, Tatpinde, whatever is in the universe is also in this body microcosm. The Aitareya Upanishad explains that our senses, mind, life force, and intellect are not accidental biological creations but living symbols of cosmic creative powers. Just as the sun gives light, the eyes give us the power to see. Just as sound resonates in the sky, the ears manifest the ability to hear. Just as the life breath circulates motion throughout the entire universe, breathing governs life within us. And just as the entire cosmos is operated by a profound consciousness, the mind and intellect within us become the active expressions of that same consciousness. Here, the Upanishad reveals the secret of the mind. The mind is not a separate power, it is itself the creative expression of the soul. The mind, intellect, and consciousness are the conscious waves of the soul, not a separate entity. Just as many rays emanate from a single lamp and all shine with the same light, similarly, the light of the soul manifests as mind, thought, memory, and discrimination. When thoughts arise, the soul is expressing its power of knowing. When discrimination awakens, the soul begins to understand itself. And when consciousness becomes the witness and starts observing the thoughts, it begins to touch its original form. From this perspective, mental processes do not become our limitations but rather gateways to our divinity. We often consider the mind as our enemy, whereas the Aitareya Upanishad teaches that the mind does not need to be suppressed but understood. Because the mind is a form of the creative power that drives the entire universe. The flow of thoughts is not a fault, but evidence of the vitality of consciousness. When this flow is connected with discernment and the attitude of a witness, the same mind becomes a means of spiritual practice and creates a bridge to self realization. After this, the Upanishad points to a deep misconception, the illusion of separation. We think, I am separate and this universe is separate. This is the fundamental cause of ignorance. From this arise fear, loneliness, and struggle. But Vedanta clearly states that this distinction is only an illusion of perception. In reality, there is no division. Your consciousness and the consciousness of the universe are the same fundamental power. A river appears separate from the ocean, but its water is the same as that of the ocean. Similarly, the individual soul experiences itself as separate, while its consciousness originates from the same supreme soul. When this awareness awakens, the entire perspective of life changes. Fear begins to dissolve because there is no other enemy left. Compassion arises naturally as the same consciousness is seen shining in every being. Life becomes a spiritual practice as the distinction between inside and outside starts to break down. Here, the seed of self realization sprouts, and the experience of Advaita Vedanta begins to take shape. That is why the Aitareya Upanishad does not teach us that Brahman is located somewhere far away. It tells us that Brahman shining in the sky is the one breathing within you. The consciousness that moves the universe is the same that sees through your eyes and knows the world, and the supreme truth you are seeking outside has already manifested within your inner self, showing you the way. This is the secret of the microcosm, that you are not merely beings living in the universe, but the living expression of the universe itself. Now we move towards the supreme teaching of the Aitareya Upanishad, where the entire journey of the soul reaches its pinnacle, the path of liberation. Vedanta calls this living the journey in reverse, where the soul, having descended from pure Brahman consciousness to embody the levels of body, mind, and experience, now becomes aware and returns to its original source. This is the soul's third birth. It is not a physical birth, but a birth of realization. The moment when the soul stops considering itself a limited being and recognizes its infinite nature. This is liberation, freedom not from bonds, but from illusion. The journey of this return does not mean running away from the world. The Aitareya Upanishad says that a seeker can undertake an upward journey of consciousness even while living in the world, when a person learns to see that he is not the body, but the consciousness that knows the body. He is not the mind, but the witness who observes the thoughts of the mind. Only then does the journey begin to reverse. Initially, consciousness flows outward, towards enjoyment, accumulation, identification, and desires. Now the same consciousness turns inward, towards silence, witnessing, discrimination, and self realization. Here there is no descent, but an ascent, no fall, but a return. On this path, the Aitareya Upanishad gives us some practical tools that are just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. The first tool is meditation. The purpose of meditation is not to forcibly stop thoughts, but to recognize that silent witness beyond them, which is constantly observing. When the practitioner sits quietly and observes the breath, emotions, and thoughts, they gradually begin to realize, I am not these thoughts, I am the seer of all these. This sense of being the seer is the first direct glimpse of the soul. The second means is reflection and self contemplation. The Upanishads are not realized merely by listening, they must be internalized. calmly reflecting on the day's experiences. In what state of mind did I live? Where did the ego dominate? Where did I become the witness? This reflection steadies the practitioner on the inner journey. The third means is contemplation of scriptures and satsang, association with the wise. When one associates with pure speech and elevated consciousness, the inner consciousness begins to rise in the same tone, and the soul remembers that its true nature is peace, freedom, and love. The fourth means is continuous awakening to the nature of reality. Constantly remember, I am the experiencer, not the experienced. I am the witness, not the seen. This simple practice gradually frees the practitioner from within, even while living in the world. When this awareness deepens, liberation from the cycle begins. Suffering no longer connects only to external events because the identity changes. Fear diminishes because it becomes clear death belongs to the body, not to consciousness. Desires begin to weaken because the practitioner understands that completeness is not outside, but exists within. It is this awareness that brings the power to rise above the cycle of coming and going. Here, liberation does not mean going far away, but becoming free while staying right here, free from worries, cravings, and the bonds of ego. The Aitareya Upanishad points to the liberated state, which is a state of permanent peace. Here, the seeker no longer needs any new achievement because he realizes there is nothing left to attain. He himself is what he was searching for. The confluence of soul, Brahman, and consciousness becomes a living experience. Life then ceases to be a struggle and becomes a celebration. Spiritual practice is no longer a burden, but becomes a natural breath. This is the third birth, the birth of liberation, where consciousness stops considering itself as a limited being and rests in its Brahman nature. This is the ultimate message of the Aitareya Upanishad. You did not come to go anywhere outside, but to recognize yourself. And where this recognition is complete, the journey becomes peaceful, in pure consciousness, in eternal peace, in complete freedom. Now, in the final phase of this divine journey, let us understand that the Vedantic knowledge of the Aitareya Upanishad is not limited to an ancient scripture, but is equally vibrant, relevant, and guiding in today's life. We are living in the year 2026, where external conveniences have increased, but inner restlessness, mental stress, loneliness, and questions related to the meaning of life are deepening. In the race of work, social comparison, and a culture of show off, a person is connected externally but is becoming distant from himself internally. In such times, the knowledge of the soul becomes not just philosophy, but a lamp that provides mental balance and clear direction. The Aitareya Upanishad reminds us that the peace we seek outside is already present within us. When the seeker realizes that they are not just a restless mind, but the consciousness that observes the mind, problems may not immediately disappear, but their burden begins to lighten. The meaning of life starts to appear not in external achievements, but in the awakened awareness within. This vision gives the strength to rise above anxiety, fear, and emptiness. Now the question arises, how to implement this in life? The Upanishad's answer is straightforward and practical. The first practice is mindful presence. While eating, only eat. While walking, only walk. And while conversing, be fully present. When we remain in the present, the mind naturally begins to calm, and the essence of consciousness reveals itself. The second practice is a sense of unity in relationships. See the other person not as the other, but as an expression of the same consciousness from which I myself have arisen. This reduces conflicts and compassion naturally increases. The third practice is the witness attitude in place of ego. When an emotion, anger, or pain arises, instead of getting entangled in it, look within. This emotion is arising. I am witnessing it. By remaining in this witness attitude, the grip of the emotion begins to loosen, and the practitioner gradually connects with their true nature. The fourth practice is creating moments of silence amidst busyness. A few moments of focusing on the breath during the day, sitting in silence for some time, or simply gazing at the open sky. These small practices fill life with deep peace. The message of the Aitareya Upanishad is very simple. Your entire life can be your spiritual practice. There is no need for a forest or renunciation for this. From wherever you are, just as you are, self exploration is possible. Your breath is your practice. Your actions are your service. Your relationships are tests. And your consciousness itself is worship. Remember, your soul's journey is not over, it is still ongoing. Every morning gives a new opportunity to know yourself more deeply. The knowledge of the soul, the teachings of the Upanishads, and this stream of Vedanta are not memories of a bygone era, but a living, pulsating light even today, guiding every seeker's inner journey. The only question is, are you ready to listen to this call of your own consciousness? If this teaching reminds you of a loved one, someone who needs to hear this truth today, please be sure to share this video with them so that this light can reach as many souls as possible. And in the end, the essence of this entire practice is summed up in one sentence. You are not the seeker. You yourself are the very truth you have been searching for. This is the teaching of the Aitareya Upanishad. This is the philosophy of Vedanta. And this is the highest achievement of life. Thank you for your time and your presence.